Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in a sea of interview transcripts and notes? You can feel that there's a powerful story hiding in there somewhere, but how on earth do you find it? Well, in this explainer, we are going to demystify the whole process of qualitative data analysis and show you exactly how to turn all that chaos into some beautiful clarity.
So you've put in all the hard work, right? You did the interviews, you took the notes, and now you're just staring at this mountain of text. It's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed. But I promise you, deep inside that data are the hidden patterns, the core message you've been looking for. The real question is, how do you dig them up?
All right, to guide you through this, we've broken the whole thing down into 5 key stages. Think of this as your roadmap, the thing that's going to lead you from that initial messy pile of data all the way to the clarity of a really well-told story.
Okay, so before we can start analyzing anything, we got to understand what we're even working with. See, unlike the nice, neat columns you get with quantitative data, qualitative data is this sprawling landscape of words and stories and observations. So our first challenge is just to tame this textual wilderness.
There's this big misconception that qualitative analysis is kind of fuzzy, maybe a little subjective, but that is absolutely not true. It's actually a super disciplined and systematic way to find meaning, one that's both rigorous and totally defensible.
So where do we even begin? Well, it starts with the words themselves. Before we can analyze, we have to capture every little nuance of the spoken word, and that brings us to our very first practical step, the art of transcription.
Transcription is so much more than just typing up what somebody said. It's really about capturing the full texture of a conversation. Every hesitation, every laugh, every single pause. Because as we're about to see, sometimes the biggest insights are hiding not in the words themselves, but in the little spaces between them.
So, take a look at this. This is what real, unfiltered human speech actually looks like on the page. It's not some polished sentence from a book. It's a window directly into someone's thought process, and it's complete with all the natural pauses and stutters. Now, to capture this really rich layer of nonverbal stuff, researchers use a kind of shorthand. So, for example, double parentheses might mean a laugh, while a single dot marks a short little silence. These notations are like the secret language of transcription, and they add so much depth and context to the raw text.
Okay, so you've got your transcripts ready. And you might be tempted to just jump straight into coding. But wait, there's a really crucial step in between that can make all the difference. It's called memoing. You can think of it as your first real conversation with your data.
At its core, memoing is really just thinking on the page. As you're immersing yourself in the transcripts, you're jotting down every thought, every question, every connection that pops into your head. This is the time for what we call unbounded thinking, just exploring the data without being tied down to any formal structure.
And your memos can take a lot of different forms. You might find yourself connecting something a person said to a broader theory, or you might just have a personal reaction, writing down, wow, I would have never done that. You could even start to come up with early ideas about patterns you're seeing. All of this is super valuable for your analysis.
All right, so you've transcribed, you've memoed, and now you're finally ready to start building a real structure. This is where we start bringing order to the chaos, and it all begins with the fundamental process of coding. So, what is a code anyway? Well, it's pretty simple. It's a label. It's a word or a short phrase that captures the essence of a chunk of text. Think of codes as the basic building blocks of your analysis. They're the tools you're going to use to sort and categorize all your data.
To make this a little more concrete, let's look at a quick example. This is a little snippet from an interview with a vegetarian. Just as you read it, try to think about the key ideas and feelings that are being expressed here.
Okay, so here's how a researcher might code that passage. The part about different food items gets coded as types of food. That feeling of discomfort with the shared grill, that's labeled uneasy feeling. And the reference to past eating habits is tagged as thinking back in time. And just like that, a complex paragraph gets broken down into these manageable analytical pieces.
So where do these codes even come from? Well, some of them, we call them in vivo codes. They just pop up organically from the data itself. Others are pre-existing codes, which are based on theories you already have going into your research. A really strong analysis is often going to use a mix of both. You've done all this foundational work, the transcribing, the memoing, the coding. And now it is time for the payoff. This is that moment when you start to see the bigger picture emerge from all those little details. This is where you reveal the story that's been hiding in your data all along.
See, your analysis isn't done just because you have a long list of codes.
The next step, the real magic, is to look for connections and patterns among your codes. You'll start grouping related codes into larger categories. And then, as you step back and look at how these categories relate to each other, you'll see your big, overarching themes start to emerge. And those themes, that's the story. This diagram is the perfect example of what the final output can look like. The researchers who did this study on life balance took everything they learned from 19 different interviews and distilled it all into this single, powerful visual. This is the kind of awesome clarity and synthesis that this whole process makes possible.
So what did they discover? After analyzing all of that data, they identified 4 key dimensions of life balance. This is the kind of powerful, clear insight that you can uncover through a really rigorous qualitative analysis.
And there you have it. You've made the journey from the chaos of raw text all the way to the clarity of a well-defined story. By systematically applying transcription, memoing, and coding, you can transform that mountain of data into a powerful and evidence-based narrative.
Ultimately, qualitative data analysis is all about discovery. It's a set of tools that lets you find the signal in the noise, the story in the text. So, as you go out and do your own research, just remember that inside your data, there's a world of meaning just waiting to be revealed. The only question left is, what story will you tell?